humans aren't born out of laying around on their asses. We've been born out of conquering a world. We're the dominant species. We built all this. We're powerful and we're beautiful and we're ready to build the next level of civilization in God's plan. But you must stop bowing to those who want to make you a victim. You must become the victor. If you love God and you want to build a pro-human future, then you are an enemy of the New World Order and Satanism. They want us shut down because we have the Spirit. I'm jacked into the source. I know the secret, and I want to see you empowered. But you have to believe in yourself first. This is the truth, and everyone knows it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk about Ukraine. And I want to talk about this situation. And I want to give you my perspective. And then we have a couple other videos that I've pulled up. One from somebody who's more left-wing, somebody who's more libertarian, and somebody who's, I guess you could call him a centrist. But we'll get into that. But first, let me give you my opinion on Ukraine. I think people who are in support of Ukraine from the United States are crazy. I do. I think there is absolutely no justification for the United States to be funding and supporting a proxy war with Russia, which is exactly what it is. It's been our money, it's been our weaponry, it's been our intel the whole time. And I'm not in favor of that. I think that Trump should do exactly what he's doing, which is to try to put an end to the killing. I don't support Zelensky. He's corrupt. The Ukrainian government is corrupt. I don't draw, and I know some people may, have an issue with this. I don't draw any distinction between Putin and Zelensky. Both of them are dictators. You have but to look at the way that Zelensky has operated, imposing martial law, closing down Christian churches, conscripting people, forcing them to the front line. Like, we've seen the videos, and J.D. Vance was talking about it, where people are just picked up and sent to the front line. I think that's absolutely terrible. And then wanting to go on a media tour to try to, guilt people into giving them more money for a war that they, in my opinion, have already lost. They lost the war a long time ago, but the U.S. is doing a weekend at Bernie's trying to prop up this thing. I just think that it needs to end. These people need to stop dying. Now, some people are going to disagree with that. Because either, they don't really like America, Trump's in favor of ending the war, so they're not in favor of ending the war. There are a lot of different perspectives on this. And I want to watch and give my take on a couple different people. Now, the first one is the more left-wing perspective from asmongold, which he is in full support of Zelensky. He's in full support of Ukraine, which personally I disagree with vehemently. During the interaction with Trump and Vance, he sided with Zelensky, which I think is absolutely reprehensible and insane. I think that is an insane take to look at that situation and say that Trump and Vance were in the wrong. They were not in the wrong. Not in any way, shape, matter, or form. This guy Zelensky, he's a weirdo. I mean, first of all, I'm just going to throw that out there, but more than that, he's going to beg for money. And in the midst of begging for money, in the midst of begging for aid, it would be like this. Let me put it this way. It would be like if asmongold and I were working on a deal behind the scenes for him to promote my channel, for him to help me grow my subscribers. Because, I'm almost at 16,000 subscribers, which for me is insane. That's a huge number. I'm overwhelmed by that. But this guy has like millions of subscribers. This guy is huge. If behind the scenes we're working on a deal, and, we're working on a deal to promote my channel. And I come on screen with him. And he's like, hey, there's this guy, the Tactical Templar, hey, you should go subscribe to him. And then I went on there and I'm like, So, Asmongold, I got to talk to you about OTK. And, some of these people are absolutely retarded. You know, like this Cinna person, we need to talk about some of these. If I were to come on there and blindside him with all the stuff that OTK people had done wrong and my grievances of, like, well, OTK had done this and Mizkiv, if I blindsided him like that, do you think that his response would be, well, you should still subscribe to this guy? No, he would disconnect the call and he'd be like, okay, I was wrong. This guy's a piece of shit. Well, that's exactly what Trump and Vance did. I guarantee that they had a deal behind the scenes. And basically, Zelensky comes out with these pictures. Let me show you pictures of soldiers. Let me show you all this stuff. He violated the terms of their deal. It's very clear. And J.D. Vance was not having it. Trump was not having it. They stood up for America. They stood up for this peace deal, and they basically put Zelensky in his place. I don't know how anyone with a functioning brain can look at that and be like, yeah, Zelensky was in the right. But we're going to let Asmongold say his piece, even though I think he's wrong. We're going to let him say his piece. This is at the tail end of Zelensky speaking after that meeting. He was speaking with Fox News. And so this is Asmongold's take on the situation. And so I want to play this for you. This is a more left-wing perspective, which I think is important because we have a couple other videos to go over from people that are more centrist and, maybe a little more libertarian.
I think
I'm
that
Kristi
was
Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland.
that was a great interview, and
His interview, by the way, was atrocious. I like Asmongold on some things, but when it comes to certain things, he just we're just different. Recently, he said that he would vote for Bernie Sanders for president in the future, which I think may be one of the most retarded things I've ever heard. Bernie Sanders is one of the least qualified people to be president, one of the least qualified people to be a politician, period. A corrupt, senile, bitter, angry, communist or socialist, depending on your viewpoint, individual. So, yeah, we disagree on a lot of stuff, but when it comes to this, I think this is a litmus test, and I think that, personally, Asmongold is, he's not doing great on this issue, just personally, that's my opinion.
I think, honestly, like, after listening to Zelensky, I feel like the only reason why, like, more people aren't on his side, one of the big reasons is the language barrier. I think that it can be kind of hard to understand what he's saying, and like the emotion behind what he's saying sometimes is lost. And I think it's like actually like a massive debuff. I didn't really notice it because that's why I didn't really put in a lot of commentary and talk during it, is because I was just trying to understand what he was trying to say, right? It's mostly language. Yeah, it is. It is mostly language.
It's not mostly language. It's his inability to show any sort of decorum. It's his stance and his policy. I mean, the guy goes into the Oval Office, doesn't wear a suit. I mean, that's disrespectful. That's obvious. What he tries to do, the way that he begs for money and yet wants to play this tough guy act, makes a deal behind the scenes and then wants to litigate things in front of the press. No. The fact he's a dictator as well is a major thing as well. I think that is a particularly retarded point of view, that the only reason that people have a disagreement with Zelensky is the way that he says things. I think that is one of the most softball things. And again, I'm not trying to be hard on Asmongold with this. I'm really not. But you're talking about a guy here that whenever I start with that, I always think of the people that rag on Asmongold because he's got like a dirty room or something. It's like the most surface level, like low IQ take. But like, you listen to the way that he talks about Hassan, a terrorist supporter, a genuinely evil, irredeemable, subhuman piece of garbage. He speaks with him always with this sort of like kid glove mentality, like this, golly gee shucks. And so I think that Asman, I don't know why. I think he, in a lot of cases, will downplay some of the more severely repugnant elements of a person to try to appeal or appear to seem neutral. In a way, that, I mean, I could be totally off base there, but that's the perception, that he's willing to talk about video games and stuff like that, and people who are, you know, in the LGBT community and stuff, which I agree with completely. But when it comes to like Hassan, who's genuinely evil, I don't want there to be any ambiguity, by the way. My position on Hassan Piker is like 180 degrees from Asman. I don't only think that Hassan should be banned from Twitch. I think he should be deported from the country. I think he's a terrorist. I think when you look at his coverage of what happened in Gaza with those kids being returned and him basically laughing and celebrating, I think his, you know, America Deserves 9/11, bringing on a terrorist onto his podcast and glazing him, saying that he supports Hezbollah. Get this guy the fuck out of here. I think this guy is a terrorist. I think he's a danger. He's openly said that he's a radical. He's openly talked about this. Get him to Gitmo or Turkey or wherever else. Just get him out. He's a threat. That's my personal opinion. That's my personal take. So it's the complete opposite of asmongold, that thinks that he shouldn't even be banned from Twitch. But I think that it's important to get that sort of perspective, that there are people in America that do support Zelensky, that will downplay his more nefarious elements and will come out and say, I'm in favor of the Ukraine war, which is what asmongold has done, not only in this video, but in other videos as well, which is to come out on the side of Ukraine over the side of the United States, which I will never do.
And so, yeah, I need a translator. So retards can't understand logic, basically. Well, I think that communicating is more than logic, right? But I would say this was a very good interview. I think they did a great job with this. It was much better than what I had expected.
Yeah, so that's the left-wing perspective. And by the way, asmongold is not right-wing. You don't say that you're going to vote for Bernie Sanders and then get called right-wing. On certain topics, he's not the left. But that doesn't make him right-wing. Anyway, moving over, we've got a video from Sargon of Akkad. Don't worry, we're not going to watch the whole thing. I've gone to about the 40-minute mark where he talks about this particular interaction, and I think that this is a more sensible British perspective when it comes to this. I actually very much like Sargon. We don't agree on everything. Obviously, he's British. I try not to hold that against him. No, but I think he's very good. I think his takes align, ironically, asmongold's an American. I align more with Sargon on a lot of different things than I do with asmongold. Just because he's more left-wing, he's more anti-Trump, and it just, for me, I believe in America first. And I believe in Americans first. So there's no way in hell that I'm supporting the war in Ukraine, which sends American tax dollars and sends American munitions over to fight somebody else's war. Yeah, I'm not in favor of that. I'm not in favor of that in the same way that I'm not in favor of the U.S. government spending billions of dollars on LGBTQ dance shows all over the world. That's just my personal perspective on this topic.
Saying is that he has moral consideration for you, right? He is sentimentally attached to you. He wants to be your friend. He wants Europe to do well. He wants Britain to do well. He wants Ukraine to do well. And I'm sure he's not even that like that bad about Russia. I'm sure he's like, okay, yeah, I'd like it if everyone just relaxed and we could get the killing stopped. And, I'm on everyone's side here. As in, I'm not against any of you. I just want you to stop and resolve your differences. Again, it comes across very grandfatherly. And I very much approve of Trump's grandfatherliness, especially when he starts putting the hammer down. No, this is the law. I love this bit.
You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. But you're never going to get a deal that way, so that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
Hey, I want to respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
That's such a great that's such a great answer. Such a great response. I'm liking JD Vance more and more because he can just articulate the president's position and do it in a way that is, I think, more cogent than Trump. I think Trump speaks from the heart. I think JD Vance speaks from the heart as well, but I think that he can focus it in a way that is more, Asman wants to talk about a language barrier. Well, sometimes Trump has a little bit of a language barrier issue too, but people tend to be able to understand him. But I think JD Vance did a phenomenal job there. I think that was a great answer, and that's sort of my position. I want to get the war done. I don't want U.S. to be spending billions of dollars. I don't want us to be sending weapons overseas. I want the U.S. to be helping people here. We've got our own problems that we need to sort out. We need to deal with our own stuff before we start dealing with stuff around the world. That's how we got into the position that we're in today.
So Vance is a great sweeper for Trump, and I'm actually so glad that he's here, because, like I said, Trump says a bunch of stuff, and he says it from the heart, right? He says it from the thymos, and he speaks in language they don't understand, in ways they can't really comprehend, and so they go, oh, right, so he's just with the enemy then. But no, Vance is like, look, I can explain this in the sort of clear language that you need. Here is what he actually means. We want peace, therefore we need to negotiate. And this is very much the adults in the room, actually. This is the perspective of the adults in the room. No, we recognize that each of the parties involved is a valid actor. And the problem with the rational liberal West is we don't recognize that Vladimir Putin is the legitimate ruler of Russia. He is what the Russians seem to want, right? He seems to embody a kind of classic stereotypical Russian ruler. Like, he's like a new Tsar, right? He seems to represent Russia in a sort of metaphorical way, in a thematic way. Like, I don't think the average Russian looks at Putin and thinks, yeah, God, he's terrible. You know, I don't think that. I mean, I don't know. I don't speak to any Russians, right? But I just can't help but feel that you can't be in Putin's position if that's the case. I can't help but feel that you get lots of conspiracies and plots against you, you know, that your position would never be tenable and you just be undermined. So it's not like they're a rules-based order, right? That's the thing. So it has to be based on his character. And I think his character is sort of symbolic of what it is to be Russian. At least I think that from the outside. And this is something that the West just can't come to terms with. And it's like, okay, well, you know, Trump doesn't care. You know, Trump hasn't got designs on Russia. And this works for them.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So this is where the problem comes, right? So Vance is like, look, we're going to get peace because it would be better for everyone if we had peace. And now Zelensky intercedes. Because, so, and again, there are lots of reasons to have problems with Zelensky. And like I said, I don't agree with the things that the world order he's trying to join. But he is actually kind of sticking his neck out at this point now for Ukraine to get a good deal, right? Because it would actually, I think, be easy for him to fold like a house of cards and be like, right, okay, Ukraine is just going to be fucked forever. I'm going to take my golden parachute and piss off to California like Rishi Sunak after bringing in, you know, millions of immigrants. And it's not my problem because I'm rich and I can fuck off. Right? Zelensky actually hasn't done that yet. Zelensky is actually trying to say, no, I would like guarantees for Ukraine after the peace is settled. I would like Ukraine not to be essentially an economic colony of the United States. And that is actually working in Ukraine's interests in the future. Now, you know, there are going to be people who come at me for that, but I do think that that's actually somewhat commendable, and I can see why supporters of Zelensky like him on those grounds, right? Because again, I'm not someone who likes Zelensky. I'm not someone who supports the war in any way, but I can see why they do. You know, it's understanding what they're seeing in him and why they can spin a Churchillian myth around him, and that's the reason I think that they do. But anyway, let's carry on after saying that controversial thing.
Okay, so he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him.
See, notice how he's talking softly with Trump here, right? He's like, you know, now President Trump, God bless, you know, he's playing the part. But he does have a point that, okay, he does just have Trump's word for it, right? And if you are coming from a place where a man's word is not his bond, such as Ukraine, that you can understand why that wouldn't be sufficient, right? You can understand why you'd be like, okay, I don't really trust, because people in the Anglosphere especially forget that we have a deeply honourable culture when it comes to a man's word, right? If you say you're going to do something, it is just expected that you do it. Like, and it is an atrocious and disgraceful thing if you don't. If you don't live up to your word, that is a black mark on your character that everyone sees and will treat you in a negative way and won't trust you. No one will trust you. And then you're denied access to the high trust society from your own actions. But if you don't come from a high trust society and people are just talking at you, well, you can see why you'd be like, okay, I would actually like a bit more than that. I would like, you know, 100,000. What he's asked for is 100,000 troops in Ukraine to garrison areas of it.
Yeah, which is insane. I wanted to let him speak there for a little bit. But yeah, that's insane. We're not putting 100,000 troops. We're not putting any troops in Ukraine. Zero. Zilch. What we can do is, and I think that this is a very significant and important thing, we can have economic ties. So we can have U.S. companies going in to drill for minerals. Now, that in itself is a level of protection, because I'll tell you what happens. If, for example, U.S. companies were to go in and start drilling for minerals, and Russia were to attack those sites and kill American people, yeah, I have a feeling that Putin would not do that while Trump is president, and even afterwards, because I have a feeling that J.D. Vance may be right behind him. So I have a feeling that in itself would be a more secure resolution than may have existed before. But here's the deal. All of that stuff can be negotiated. Now is not the time to be popping off. Now, whether asmongold or other people want to say that he's making a good point, and I mean, there have been people that are more libertarian that say that, you know, that's a perfectly valid point. The first thing is to get a ceasefire. Now, whether you think the ceasefire is going to hold is irrelevant. Getting people to stop killing themselves, getting them to stop firing is the best solution for right now, and then you can work out a deal. You need to get that ceasefire in place. You want people to stop dying. That's the most important thing here. And Zelensky's attitude And I think one of the reasons why it pissed off Trump is because they had worked on this deal behind the scenes. Zelensky comes in here, he shows him all these photos, brings up all the 20,000 kids, that have been kidnapped by Russia. By the way, I don't believe Zelensky. I don't believe a single word that he says. I don't trust him. I know that some people do. I don't. I don't trust him. I don't think he's trustworthy. So I don't view his word as gospel the way that some people do. Oh, Russia violated this 25 times. I don't believe that. I don't necessarily believe anything that he says simply because this guy is a propagandist. He's out here to try to get money and resources from the American people. You don't believe somebody when they're trying to when they're trying to make themselves a resume, for example. You gotta verify the information. But when it comes to this situation, I think that it's very, very clear. I think it's very clear that Zelensky acted in a way that was unacceptable. Sort of to shift topics, I do. And I think Trump reacted in the way that you would react if somebody broke a deal or broke their word, which I think goes to what he's talking about here, that if Putin were to be stupid enough to attack an American citizen, I think that at the end, I think it would be the end for Russia, personally. Anyway, let's go on to another video. We got one from Tim Pool, and then actually just 1 second. Let me pull up a video from another content creator. Actually, first before we get into Tim Pool, let me pull up a content creator that I do very much like, and even though we disagree on a whole lot. I disagree with Sticks on different things than asmongold in some cases. But yeah, Sticks Hexenhammer, who looks like he's Asmongold's long lost brother, his more libertarian brother. But I actually agree with Sticks' take on Zelensky here, which is that he really, really messed up. And I think this video in and of itself is very fascinating. I definitely recommend that you go watch it. But I'm more in line with this sort of perspective as it relates to Zelensky in this situation.
Fucked up when he decided to... All right, everyone. Zelensky really fucked up when he decided to come to the White House. It was probably not a good idea to try to ambush Trump and J.D. Vance, because they're actually capable of responding. I think he figured it'd be a little bit like the Biden era. Okay, I can come and I can strong arm and everything will be fine. That ain't gonna work anymore. You come into the White House. Now, first and foremost, and I'm no hypocrite. I mean, I went to court dressed as a pirate, basically. So this isn't a major concern, but you come in dressed like a schlub. You come in dressed like you're basically the Ukrainian version of John Fetterman. A little bit of decorum would have been nice, just saying. It depends on whether it's a formal or informal setting. Informal setting, go ahead, wear a goddamn Hawaiian shirt and nobody cares. Formal setting, for a presser, something like this. You're supposed to wear formal attire, or at least semi-formal attire. Look presentable. That's number one. He attempts to dress down J.D. Vance after being asked a very, very basic bitch question that he apparently could not answer. Calls him a bitch, literally, suka, in Ukrainian. He literally called J.D. Vance a bitch.
That was the other wild thing. And this is where I think Asmongold has a tendency, and not to just dwell on him, but he's my left-wing example for this, so I'm going to rag on him a little bit. But this is where he sort of downplays. Zelensky was in the Oval Office, and he called J.D. Vance a bitch. I think Trump was absolutely right to kick him the hell out. Who the hell is this jumped-up little prick, this tin pot dictator that isn't really that much different than Putin and what he's doing, he's going to come to the U.S. after we've paid hundreds of billions of dollars and saved his entire country and treat our leadership like that? You know, I think that he is I think JD Vance was absolutely right. And to point out the fact that Zelensky had been campaigning with Democrats to elect Joe Biden, I think that's perfectly valid.
Trump probably...
To be clear, perfectly valid to bring up against him and be like, what the hell are you doing? You should be thankful. You should be more appreciative. Not that it was perfectly valid that Zelensky was doing that in the first place.
He had an earpiece in, realized what was being said, and then he basically tells Zelensky to fuck off. Apparently, afterwards, there was a luncheon, and Zelensky was kicked out of the luncheon, actually. I'm not surprised at this, by the way. Link in the description, not archived in this particular case. Zelensky got completely owned. Naturally, the legacy media is saying Trump was being a bully. Trump was being wrong. He breached decorum. How dare he alienate one of our closest allies? Most Americans never heard of Ukraine before the war. They can't find it on a goddamn map. Close ally, my asshole. We've got some close allies in the world, like Japan, which Joe Biden, by the way, insulted several times, or Poland, or Germany, or the UK. Places like that.
So
those are our...
This is completely irrelevant. Why does Styx have a can of Spam on his desk? I'm getting distracted. I don't know what this is. There's just a can of Spam. Random. I don't. It is. I could see Styx and asmongold being related. They both have the messy desk, with the random food. They both look alike in a way. I'm surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, yeah, we're brothers, or we're long-lost twins. They're separated at birth. One's Danny DeVito, one's Arnold. And but yeah, no, Styx makes a very, very good point. He makes a very good point, and I think it's really fascinating to watch the difference between these two contrasting opinions, and that's why I wanted to make this video, really, is to show you that there's a lot of different perspectives on this. There isn't just two sides of it. There are a couple different sides. I think that Sargon's opinion is slightly different than Styx's, which is different than asmongold's, which is definitely different than mine. But my position on this, what it is and what it will remain, is that I don't care about Ukraine. I don't care about Russia. I understand that this war started due to Europe. No. It was Russia. Russia started the fighting, but they were provoked into doing it by the European nations. Because the whole reason that Putin attacked was because they were dangling this thing of Ukraine joining NATO, and then Russia would have been surrounded on all sides. So I understand that this topic is delicate. I understand that there are a lot of different perspectives. My perspective is this: America first, Americans first. Let me say that again, because whenever I say that, some people say, well, what you really mean is Israel first. What you really mean... No. Let me repeat it again, and I'll say it slowly. America first, Americans first. I think if there's money to be spent, not a dime of it should go to Ukraine. All of it should go to helping the American people. All of it. the American people. The money that we collect from taxes should go to help the American people. Now, if there's a crisis, if there's something that absolutely needs our contribution from a humanitarian standpoint, and it's not LGBTQ interpretive dance in the middle of Saudi Arabia for $1 billion, if it's actually something substantive, then okay, we can discuss it. But at the end of the day, we have so many things that we need to solve here. I think it is absolutely unconscionable to be focusing on other countries when we have people here that need help. We have a system that is in deep trouble. We saw that with the Epstein files, that we have FBI agencies that are going rogue, apparently. You know, we have a lot of house cleaning to do. And I honestly don't think we should be involved in any foreign wars. That's my perspective. Clean out the trash and the waste and the fraud and the abuse from the government. Fire all the employees you can that are part of this just swamp, this stagnant cesspool. Get them all out. Clean up a lot of these checks that are going to dead people. Make America more streamlined, more efficient, more effective, and help the American people. That's what I would like to see. Get the illegals out, deport them, and, a step beyond, I think that America should return to a more Christian-centric nation. Now, what that means, I mean, it's open to interpretation, but I don't think that getting away from God or getting away from Jesus has done us any favors, personally.
Close allies. Ukraine is an auxiliary ally. It's not that I have any problem with Ukrainians, by the way. Please don't get me wrong.
No, of course not. That's a cope that people use. Oh, you're just pro-Russia, or you just hate Ukraine. No, I love America. That's what it is. Anyway, going over to Tim Pool to round things out. Let's give him a listen.
Arguing with them, being combative.
Yep. Yeah.
And now they leave without a deal. And if the U.S. says no, the war is over.
Zelensky landed in the United States aware of what the president's position was. Like, he knew what the administration thought. This was basically just supposed to be a photo op. It was just so that they could get some FaceTime. The intent was to kind of like mend the bad blood they had. And Zelensky made the issue when they had a disagreement about what kind of security guarantees they were going to be. Zelensky wants Ukraine to be in NATO, and Zelensky wants American troops to be in Ukraine to guarantee the success, or to guarantee the safety, and to guarantee that Putin won't be an aggressor. The United States, essentially, their position is, we want to have rights to the minerals and stuff, and so we want to have economic deterrence, basically, because if the United States has businesses in Ukraine, that will deter Putin from taking any more territory. It'll deter a war, because the likelihood of having some kind of incident with Americans dying raises, and so that will be the deterrent. That wasn't good enough for Zelensky. Normally, this kind of negotiation will happen behind closed doors, so they can swear at each other, call each other's names, be aggressive, be angry, and then when you go ahead and talk to the actual press, everybody's kind of calm and chill. But Zelensky made the issue in front of the press, and that was a terrible move, because Trump had already had a sour taste. Zelensky came to Pennsylvania and was campaigning for Joe Biden. So then to come to the new administration, I think this is the first time that Zelensky's met with President Trump, and to do that in front of the press and make an issue that's bad, it's a terrible way to try and force a change in policy. When he knew that the United States had already made a decision on what they were looking for.
I do have a clip here. This is a very long one, so I don't know if it's the. Do we have audio working on this? I'm not sure if we have the audio on this one. No?
This is such a good video. This is like, I highly recommend this video, dude. I mean,
I don't think we have audio on this.
This is great.
Seeing that begging grubby little welfare queen Zelensky basically get dressed down and have his butt handed to him by Trump and JD Vance. It was the moment that Americans have been waiting for the past 3 years. Hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah,
I was shocked.
See, this I think is interesting because this particular video, you have a lot of different opinions in one video. You have, I don't remember this guy's name. I'm just going to refer to him as the black guy. Sorry. He's black. Just so that you understand. The black, I could say the guy in the yellow shirt, but yeah, the black guy. I agree with him completely. This was a dressing down that I think needed to take place because we had seen those pictures of Pelosi and the Democrats. They're holding up a Ukrainian flag and stuff like that. I mean, just the glazing of this guy in the Biden administration was disgusting. And I think that this is a cathartic moment for a lot of people like myself that don't support the war and never supported the war. I mean, like, I don't think that these people should have died. I would hope that the war would have stopped before it started. Now, apparently there are a lot of different, angles to this. Some people said that there was going to be a deal, and then Boris Johnson went there to kill the deal and stuff like that. So, I mean, this isn't as easy as Russia bad. Yes, Russia is bad, but that's not the question and then the answer. Russia being bad is part of the equation, but it's not the entire recipe. The fact of the matter is this. There are people in the West that have done some pretty terrible things in order to get us to this point. And Ukrainians and Russians are now dead as a result. I, as an American, would just like to see this fighting stop. I would like to see the fighting end. That's my position. That's my take.
Millions of dollars.
Yeah.
I was shocked. On our way here, we saw some canvassers for the ACLU.
Yeah.
They were waving to people. And we talked a little bit before the show about, I used to do fundraising. You're pitching, you're selling, you are begging someone, please help me, give me your money.
Yes.
I was flabbergasted at Zelensky sitting down with the most powerful military, the utmost wealth, where he is in a position that if the U.S. says, I'm sorry, we're done, the war ends overnight, and he had the nerve to argue, you don't know what you're talking about, what reports have you seen, to J.D. Vance, instead of saying, I understand, I'm sorry, but please, we really do need your help. Let me know what you need, because we will do anything. This is a man who doesn't understand the position he's in. Right. The arrogance was shocking.
That moment where he said, and this was right before Trump went off, when he said, well, you have the beautiful, well, perhaps one day you'll see, perhaps one day you'll see. My mind was blown at that. The audacity, the arrogance to sit there next to Trump. And man, Trump said what everybody has been wanting to say to that little welfare queen for years. It was an incredible, incredible moment. It really was.
I know it was.
I'm glad the cameras were on.
Yeah, when JD started talking is when Zelensky snapped. Like, he could handle it. I didn't watch the first 20, 30 minutes. I popped in for the last 15 of salaciousness. And JD just goes at him, and Zelensky's probably like, who is this guy? Now this is VP? Staging authority over him? I'm the president. I'm the leader.
I think one of the big moments was when J.D. Vance mentioned the Biden administration.
Yeah.
And then Zelensky got all angry. Instead of recognizing the power structure, the sentiment of the American people, and the position he was in, he had the nerve to talk and snap back.
Yeah, he interrupted JD, and then that's when Trump really dropped the hammer, when he interrupted JD. Trump doesn't have time. I mean, he doesn't seem to have time for disrespect.
Yeah, and the thing with JD is that the JD shade is classy. The JD shade is very classy. It's very thoughtful when JD dresses you down. But then when Trump just drops the hammer and he dresses you down like, your boss, like, I worked at KFC when I was like 19 years old in the military. Like when your boss is like screaming at you because like you really effed up, right? And so
well, didn't Zelensky say something like, I read it as a veiled threat. The clip, Trump said something like, you're in trouble and you don't know it or something. And Zelensky said something like, well, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. Yes.
That's when Trump snapped. Trump's like, don't tell us how we're going to. It was a threat.
It was.
When I watched that, I was like, you worm, you worm. Yeah. And in my full, again, because I was in the Uber, even the Uber driver's like, turn.
You see, again, and I want to reiterate this. This is why I think it's important, and you know, you can go and watch all these videos. I've showed like 4 different content creators. Like, you know, on this one, there's obviously multiple people. But like, if you contrast Asmongold's reaction, which was in favor of Zelensky, which was positive on Zelensky, which was negative on Trump and Vance, and you compare that to this, you see, by the way, a perfect job pausing. You know, I just have to say that face. I'm sorry, Mr. Cernovich. Yeah. But yeah, no, the point is that there are a lot of different perspectives on this. I agree more with them in their point of view, but there are a lot of people that do share Asmongold's belief. In fact, Asmongold ran a poll on his chat, which I was stunned by, that more people support Zelensky in his chat than Trump. When I saw that, I was blown away. I was blown away. More people supported Zelensky than Trump. Yeah, my first take was either there's a lot of Euro trash in his audience or there's a lot of traitors. That was my take. But there may just be people who just support, you know, who don't like Trump and want to support the other guy. There may be people that genuinely support Zelensky. There may be, I don't know. But that goes to show you that there are a lot of people that have a lot of different perspectives on this. I don't think they're right. In fact, I think that they're absolutely wrong. But it is very interesting to watch the dividing line on this particular topic.
Turn that up. And I go, I don't know what's going on. I'm just listening to it too. Because I can't believe he did that, you know. And I was like, I don't.
You could, if you looked at the body language of other people in the room. I believe it's the Ukraine
she's like,
ambassador was literally face palming. Yeah. And if you look at Marco Rubio, he was staring ice knives at Zelensky. I mean, and look, the Secretary of State was confirmed with a unanimous vote. He's essentially kind of the most, I guess, swamp creature that was in the room, the most establishment guy in the room. And he still, right after Zelensky left, he was tweeting his support for what President Trump said. Most of the people that are upset with President Trump are either, one, ideologically possessed already, and no matter what happened, they were going to hate Trump, or they only saw the 2-minute video and they're basing their judgment based on only that. You have to see the whole context. You have to see that they were actually perfectly fine getting along until Zelensky really made a bad decorum move. It was outside of the bounds of normal negotiations, and he really blew it.
He vindicated everything. I was thinking about that when I was walking over here. I was like, man, imagine you're some swampy Republican like Lindsey Graham, who's, we got to worship this hero. I'm like, dude, this video was a gift. And I even posted something like trolly, because I went onto the alternative universe of CNN, and they're all going, well, today was a big victory for Putin. So then I posted something like, was Zelensky under compromat from Putin? Because today clearly gave Putin a win, you know, using their language against them. Because that's how dumb these people in CNN are. And I want to just thank Zelensky. Because all he did was vindicated everything that we said. Yeah. This is a welfare project. This guy is, like when Trump said, you're not a tough guy. We all wanted to say that. Bro, Zelensky, you're a cross-dressing comedian. No offense to those who are. I'm actually pretty tolerant.
He's not being smarmy. No, he actually is. I saw that there was a video going around that Zelensky is a cross-dressing comedian, which is wild.
But you put on your little. Remember, you'd watch G.I. Joe as a kid. Oh yeah. They'd wear that camo.
Fatigue.
Yeah, fatigue. You're. I know what you're doing. You're a little G.I. Joe figure.
Look, he's an actor.
Yeah.
Look, this guy was an actor.
Right.
This guy was an actor and a dancer, and he was on the Dancing with the Stars of the Ukraine.
Yeah.
So he's playing a role, and he's been playing this role. And I think that the reason that he was so emboldened to act the way that he did today is because he's been propped up by all of the crooks that we just kicked out of D.C.
Yes. Yeah.
He has been propped up by these Democrats. He's been propped up by Hollywood. He's been propped up by the mainstream media that he was performing for. And so it was so kismet and so of the moment that we're in right now that this is what happened to him. And he crawled out of there with his tail between his legs.
I think that's a good place to stop. I agree. I agree completely with that. Lots of different perspectives, but here's where I see it. Again, I want America to get out of the war. I don't support Zelensky. I don't trust Zelensky. He's not my leader. He's not my president. My president is Donald Trump. My country is the United States of America. I want to help American citizens. I want to help the American people. First and foremost and last. Some people will disagree with that sentiment, but that's my position. And so, yeah, I really wanted to do this video. I wanted to come out with this because I've seen a lot of people with the wrong opinion. And it is the wrong opinion. Asmon's opinion is absolutely the wrong opinion. Supporting Zelensky, supporting Ukraine, it is the wrong position to have. What business do we have in a foreign country's war? What business do we have sending billions and billions of dollars when there are people in our country that could use that money? That we can help. Veterans here, homeless here, people here. Why are we giving that money to a foreign country that doesn't do anything for us? Nothing. So I don't think there's any logical reason to support Ukraine or to support Zelensky. I think that this war needs to end. Trump is the only person that seems to be moving towards that goal. And so I support Trump on this. I support Vance on this. I think they're doing a great job. And if it turns out that Zelensky wants to go it alone, well, then the U.S. can pull back all support, not give them any more intelligence, because the U.S. has been feeding them intelligence and giving them weapons and money. Fine, we'll pull it all out. You can let the Brits give you the intelligence. British intelligence. Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, to end things off, I do think there should be like a 500% tariff on Norway for refusing to fuel our U.S. Navy submarine. I think that the tariffs on that should be absolutely astronomical and ridiculous. I think the tariffs should be so large that, and by the way, I don't think we should be doing business with Norway anymore at all. I don't think we should be giving them a dime. I think we should be making that perfectly clear that if you don't fuel our Navy when they're in need of fuel, if you don't fuel our submarine, you're an enemy. You're not an ally, you're an enemy. Pretty much as simple as that. That's my opinion on that, because that was absolutely insane. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you next time.